This is Silly Putty. And I have the paper here. I have it out because I was going to try to lift a picture off the front of the page. You know, with the old print newspapers or comics, you can actually, take this out like this and you can put on the picture and pat it down and get the picture. But new ink nowadays, you can't do it. But if you have something old, printed old, it will work and you'll have the picture right in your Silly Putty. You know, Silly Putty was actually invented during World War II, when one of the biggest resources that we needed during the war was rubber, and unfortunately we didn't have any of it.
Oh, brother, I'm out of here.
I guess Mr. Jill had to leave. He doesn't want to learn anything as usual. Now I'll move this Silly Putty closer to that one. Okay. So, rubber was used in a lot of things during World War II. They used it for tires, boots, gas masks, life rafts, and bombers, just to name a few. But it was in short supply because rubber comes from rubber trees. And there were no rubber trees growing in the United States. And the countries that did have rubber trees, well, those were under the control of the enemy. So they're trying to find a something synthetic that you could use to make something like rubber, a synthetic or fake rubber, same properties as rubber, but it's made with ingredients that we have here in the country. In 1943, engineer James Wright, he combined boric acid and silicone oil, and he came up with this goo, and discovered it could bounce when dropped, stretch farther than regular rubber, and it didn't collect mold, and it had a very high melting temperature. Unfortunately, though it was a fascinating substance, it didn't contain the properties needed to replace rubber. He sent samples of this putty to scientists around the world, but none of them found a use for the goo either. This goo, however, was entertaining. This nutty putty, as it was referred to, began to be passed around to family and friends, and even taken to parties to be dropped and stretched and molded to the amazement of the partygoers. In 1949, the goo found its way to toy store owner Ruth Fallgoddard, who also produced a toy catalog on a regular basis. Advertising consultant Peter Hodgson convinced Fallgoddard to take gobs of the goo, put it in plastic cases, and to put it for sale in her catalog. They sold the Nutty Putty for $2 each, and the bouncing goo outsold everything else in the catalog, except for a set of 50-cent crayons. After a year of strong sales, Fallgoddard decided to drop the bouncing putty from her catalog. And I have some Nutty Putty right here. This is a real Nutty Putty, by the way, from 1949, the one year that they did make the stuff, and that's it, in the plastic container. And I'd be kind of curious to open it up, but I'm not going to open it up, obviously. But that is the original Nutty Putty. Peter Hodgson, he didn't give up on the Nutty Putty though, and he bought a large quantity of it in 1950. He had Yale students separate the putty into 1-ounce balls and place them inside red plastic eggs. And he sold the eggs for $1 each. And this is an egg right here, but this is a big one. Now this is a big egg right here. Nutty Putty, which is actually Silly Putty. And the others are small because it's a lot less than this. This is a big ball of Silly Putty I got here. This isn't the 1-ounce version, that's for sure. Now Hodgson wasn't sure what to call the goo, but after much thought and asking other people what they think he should name the goo, he decided to name it Silly Putty. In February 1950, Hodgson took Silly Putty to the International Toy Fair in New York, and was successful in getting it stocked at both Neiman Marcus and Doubleday bookstores. A few months later, a reporter for the New Yorker stumbled upon Silly Putty at a Doubleday bookstore, and he took home an egg. Fascinated by the goo, the writer wrote about it, and it appeared on August 26, 1950. Immediately, sales for Silly Putty started to pour in, and the rest is history. And now enters Crayola. In 1977, Crayola bought the exclusive rights to manufacture Silly Putty, and they added it to their catalog of colorful products, including their #1 product that we all know, the crayon. Now I have some Silly Putty right here from 1979. This is a Binney and Smith Crayola item. It's 2 years after Crayola actually acquired the exclusive rights to manufacture Silly Putty. It's in the red 1-ounce egg, and on the cover you got the Silly Putty Man. So let's talk a little bit about Crayola, and that's why I put some other stuff out here to show Mr. Dill, but of course Mr. Dill has no interest, so I'll just tell you right quick. The crayon was not invented by Crayola. No, it wasn't. The crayon, you could say, was made better, okay, but it wasn't actually invented. It was invented in Europe. They were round and they looked like sticks. The first such crayons are said to have been made from charcoal and oil. Later, powdered pigments of various colors replaced the charcoal, and as time went by, it was discovered that substituting wax for the oil in the formula made the sticks sturdier and easier to handle. In 1864, Joseph W. Binney founded the Peekskill Chemical Company in Peekskill, New York. This company was responsible for products in the black and red color range, such as lamp black, charcoal, and paint containing red iron oxide, which was often used to paint barns. Around 1885, Joseph's son Edwin Binney and nephew C. Harold Smith formed the partnership of Binney and Smith. That's what we know today, Binney and Smith. And the cousins expanded the company's product line to include shoe polish and printing ink. In 1900, they bought a stone mill in Easton, Pennsylvania, and they began making slate pencils. I got some right here. And the slate pencils, they were made for the slate boards, which I have right there. This started Binney and Smith's research into non-toxic and colorful drawing instruments for children. Now, they'd already invented a new wax crayon used to mark crates and barrels, but those crayons contained the carbon black ingredient, which happens to be a toxic and harmful petroleum oil's byproduct. They were confident, though, that their pigment and wax mixing techniques could be adapted for a variety of safe colors without using the carbon black. They finally figured out a new formula without using the toxic carbon black, and in 1903, Edwin Binney and C. Harold Smith introduced the first children's crayons ever made. The box of crayons contained 8 colors and were sold for 5 cents each. The colors were black, brown, blue, red, purple, orange, yellow, and green. So how did they come up with the word Crayola for the company? Well, that was the creation of school teacher Alice Binney, the wife of Edwin Binney, who took the French words for chalk, cray, and oily, ola. It's something like an abbreviation for oleaginous, or I can't say the words. Anyways, she combined them to get you Crayola. Today, there are over 100 different types of crayons made by Crayola. They have crayons that they put glitter in and they sparkle. They have crayons that glow in the dark. They have crayons that have different smells to them. Crayons that wash off walls. I mean, all kinds of different stuff. So it's kind of cool. And I have some crayons in front of me right now, but these are old school crayons. They're not like the new kind like I just described. So I'll show them to you. So here we have this box of crayons here. There you can see it. This is an old one. I'm not sure exactly what year that is, but this tin of crayons right here, this tin, 1940s. That's old. Next to it, I'm not sure what year that is either, but yeah, school crayons right there. And to the left of that is the new box, what it looks like, of Crayola crayons. And above that, you've got our Crayola modeling clay, and that happens to be gray, but they also have that in different colors. And speaking of different colors, you have chalk here. You have white chalk, and of course you have colored chalk. And of course you got your slate pencils and the slate board. You've seen that already. That's about it. Now, I guess out of all of these, we'd say that the veteran was the tin, the 1940s tin. Because I think that all the boxes, all the stuff, I believe that is the oldest product. So we'll call that the veteran of this group.